the most dangerous crime mafia syndicate in Japan's history, the Yakuza, has almost disappeared from Japan today. But the reason for this is not politics or a police crackdown, but a generation that has smartphones in their hands instead of guns. Gen Z. Yes, there was a time when the Yakuza was another name for Japan's criminal underworld. From politics to the economy, they had a hold everywhere. But today, this mighty Yakuza empire has almost collapsed, and Gen Z is behind it. Meaning, children aged 13 to 28. But how? The story begins in the year 1881. A child named Harukichi Yamaguchi was born into a poor family of fishermen at Japan's Kobe port. Harukichi belonged to a group of fishermen who, along with supplying laborers for the port, also engaged in petty theft. In the year 1915, Harukichi Yamaguchi started his own gang with just 50 laborers, the Yamaguchi Gumi. Their identity would be tattoos covering the entire body of each member. And before joining the gang, to prove their loyalty, every person would have to sacrifice their little finger. In the year 1940, this gang, Yamaguchi Gumi, started by a poor fisherman, became the most dangerous crime mafia syndicate in Japan's history in just a few years, which included 2 lakh gangsters and 5,200 gangs. In broad daylight in Japan, they would carry out every kind of illegal activity, from prostitution to extortion, from drug smuggling to human trafficking, and the police couldn't even touch them. In the year 1955, the Yamaguchi Gumi even established its own political party. They even won elections, and in 1955, Nobusuke Kishi became this gang's first Prime Minister of Japan. By the 1950s, all of Japan's top celebrities, from businessmen to the biggest politicians, had become their puppets, dancing to their tunes. This gang had completely taken over 36 out of Japan's 47 districts. So much so that by the 1960s, no prime minister in Japan could be elected without their consent. But let me tell you something quite ironic. Despite committing such heinous crimes, a police survey was conducted in Japan, and it revealed that 1 out of every 10 Japanese people said that they think these gangs should exist in Japan, that they are a necessary evil for the country.
Well, I get the impression that they exist in the underground society. If they disappeared, they've been around long enough. They'll probably find it replaced by something else. Isn't it?
They used to walk around as if they were important, but yeah, I don't find them scary at all.
Even the Japanese police used to praise them. According to them, they were symbols of chivalrous, honorary Japanese tradition. In fact, in many Japanese movies of that era, these gangs were portrayed as very cool and like the nation's national heroes. But organized crime or gang culture is not a new thing in Japan at all. It has been going on in Japan for the last 300 years, and they are called Yakuza in their language. In the 17th century, the Yakuza was a mafia syndicate of about 750 gangs that committed petty crimes like theft, gambling and drug peddling. But the Yakuza were not like any ordinary gangs at all. They had some values, some principles, and they always operated in a very well-defined hierarchy. Among them, the boss was called Oiban, meaning leader, and the members were considered Koban, meaning child, who were very loyal to their boss. They had a custom where Kobans would often cut off their little finger upon joining the gang and gift it to their Oiban to show their loyalty to them. Even today, if you look, every Yakuza in Japan has a severed finger, and their entire bodies are covered in tattoos because that is their identity. But currently, the biggest Yakuza gang in Japan is named Yamaguchi Gumi, which was started in the 20th century by a fisherman. Harukichi Yamaguchi was a fisherman who used to work for a small Yakuza gang, Oshima Hideyoshi. But then in 1915, Harukichi, along with 50 board workers working there, started the modern-day Yamaguchi Gumi gang. Now, because the Yamaguchi gang was formed entirely from the labor community, and after the devastation of World War II, The real estate business was booming in Japan. This gang started taking construction contracts from people and also started taking protection money from the newly built nightclubs, which started earning them a handsome profit. With this, the Yamaguchi-gumi gang quickly grew stronger and stronger. But until the late 1940s, they were just an ordinary gang like the others. Until the CIA noticed them. After the end of World War II, as soon as Japan surrendered, on one hand, under pressure from the Allied powers, the US was forced to release many members of the Japanese Communist Party whom they had imprisoned after the invasion. On the other hand, during this time, the USSR started giving massive funding to a party there, the JCP, to establish its dominance in Japan, due to which this party began to spread rapidly in Japan and started propagating its socialist ideology. What happened was that this ideology started spreading so rapidly that at one point, this party had only 100 members, but within just 2 years, the number of members scaled up to 1 lakh. Meaning, in just 2 years, their party membership increased by 1000%. In the 1949 elections, the Japanese public made the JCP victorious. Now obviously, seeing this growing popularity of communism among the Japanese public, the US became very insecure. And that's why the then US Army General Douglas MacArthur, who was in charge of Japan after the US invasion at that time, first issued orders to ban the JCP. Secondly, he launched a massive anti-communism drive in which he fired 11,000 government employees aligned with the Communist Party from their jobs. The US government was desperate to stop the communist influence in Japan by any means necessary. And that's when they noticed the Yamaguchi-gumi gang. They thought, a gang that has connections with all of Japan's top elites, that rules almost 3/4 of Japan's area, that every child in Japan fears. If we can bring them under our control, they can become our biggest weapon against the USSR. And that's why in the late 1950s, at the behest of the US government, the CIA started getting closer to the Yakuza. First, the CIA hired Yakuza members on its payroll and started making them carry out attacks on members of the Communist Party, like the most infamous Matsukawa train derailment case of that time. In this, at the behest of the CIA, Yakuza members derailed a train in which 3 people died and many were injured. The CIA's motive behind this was very clear. They wanted to put the blame for this entire incident on the JCP, so that the image of the Communist Party among the people would become like that of a terrorist organization. After this, the CIA also had a famous leftist writer, Wataru Kaji, who used to write a lot against the US military, kidnapped through Yakuza gangsters, and didn't release him for a year. The CIA kept him in its custody and would send such warnings to other writers as well. The US executed many such small and large kidnappings and attacks in Japan through the Yakuza, which caused the fear of this gang to grow even more in the country. With the support of the CIA, the Yakuza now started smuggling drugs as well, which at that time was generating almost half of the Yakuza's income. But on the other hand, its impact on Japanese society was so bad that due to this drug smuggling, drug use in Japan scaled up suddenly within 4 years. And yes, all these stories I'm telling you about the CIA's involvement are all in the CIA's own declassified documents. The CIA itself is basically proudly stating that it was because of them that the Yakuza was able to become such a big organized crime gang. After this, the Yakuza gradually started entering the Japanese media as well. Actually, in 1946, as soon as a third-generation leader named Kazuo Tauka took over the throne of this gang, he started a talent management agency. In this, the Yakuza basically hired famous film stars and celebrity singers and produced movies and music albums with them. The Yakuza had worked with many famous singers back then, like Masaru Hibari and Yoshio Tabata. They were even managing many famous sportsmen, like the famous Japanese wrestler Rikidozan. Meaning, under Kazuo Tauka's leadership, the Yakuza had also become a big name in the Japanese entertainment industry. Japanese actors, producers, directors, athletes, everyone wanted to work with the Yakuza's talent management agency because many ordinary people became stars overnight just by associating with them. And obviously, the Yakuza had a lot of black money to launch movies, big projects, and music videos, which they also wanted to launder by investing it in the media industry. By connecting with the Japanese film industry, the Yamaguchi Gumi gang had become a famous gang. But during the 1950s, an incident occurred that literally made the Yakuza heroes of the public. Actually, in 1950 in Kobe City, another gang, the Sangokujin gang, which included Chinese, Taiwanese, and Koreans, had kidnapped some policemen. But as we saw, the police had no weapons, and so they were helpless. Forget about their own people, they couldn't even save their own lives. And that's why the police were forced to ask the Yamaguchi gang for help. To this, the Yamaguchi immediately said yes and attacked the Sangokujin gangs, almost completely eliminating them from Kobe City. Now, two things happened because of this. One, the police became indebted to the Yamaguchi's favors. And second, after eliminating the Sangokujin gang, who were not Japanese, the Yamaguchi gang's image became like that of a nationalist gang. A perception formed in people's minds that the Yamaguchi were good people who work in the nation's interest. People literally started considering them their idols, their heroes, because this gang had eliminated a non-Japanese foreigner gang and protected their country. From here, the Yakuza's fate changed completely. A major cultural shift had now arrived in Japan. Gang culture there suddenly increased because the Japanese youth now trusted a gang more than the police and the army. The US government data itself shows that from 1958 to 1963, in just 5 years, Yakuza gang members increased by 150% to about 2 lakh. I mean, just imagine, there were more Japanese gangsters than in the Japanese army. Many new small and large gangs had also emerged. During this period, approximately 5,200 Yakuza gangs were operating throughout Japan. And out of these 5,200 gangs, about 500 gangs were under the Yamaguchi Gumi, who had a total of 9,440 employees. Meaning, if I tell you their structure in short, the Yamaguchi Gumi had one top boss, i.e. the Oyaban, under whom there were 103 bosses who were gang leaders of different districts. By this period, the Yamaguchi gang had become so large that they had taken complete control of 36 out of Japan's 47 districts. Meaning, in a way, they had gained strong control over the whole of Japan. And the Yamaguchi had opened a total of 5,000 companies in different industries, from which they were earning 10 billion yen annually. And I am talking about the 1950s, don't forget. By the way, these criminal gangs used to do business so openly, but why did the police freeze them? Well, one reason for this is that they used to give a cut of about 500 million yen to the police from their annual profits. So if you tell me praising criminals in exchange for so much money is somewhat justified. From all this, it was clear that the Yamaguchi gang in Japan had become completely financially strong and influential. But criminals are criminals, after all. They don't have legal powers, do they? Yamaguchi also felt this deficiency. And that's why, to increase their political power, they also started supporting politicians. They used to help by giving them protection in political rallies and in clearing out or deleting politicians' opponents. In 1955, Yamaguchi founded its own political party, which remains Japan's ruling party today. Within a few years, they even made their candidate the PM. A cover story in the famous Indonesian political magazine Tempo reveals that ex-Japanese PM Shinzo Abe's grandfather, Nobuyuki Kishi, was previously a Yamaguchi gang member, and he is also the founder of today's Liberal Democratic Party. The history of this party's foundation is quite interesting. Famous US journalist Tim Weiner has mentioned in his book Legacy of Ashes that when the elections were held in 1949, after which the left-wing party was getting stronger, Nobuyuki Kishi, with the consent and help of the CIA, brought all the right-wing factions together. And using the Yamaguchi gang's funding, he established the Liberal Democratic Party, LDP. The CIA's backing was so strong that in its very first elections in 1955, the LDP won with a full swing majority, and gangster Nobuyuki Kishi became Japan's first prime minister affiliated with the Yamaguchi Gumi Yakuza. Now, Because the Yakuza were, in a way, legally ruling Japan, what was the harm in their gangs also getting legal status in Japan? These photos you are seeing. Since the 1960s in Japan, Yakuza gangs had started operating their illegal businesses openly by opening such offices. This was the only criminal gang in the world that would openly hold press conferences after committing a crime. For many decades to come, the Yamaguchi-gumi gang ruled indiscriminately. There was no one to stop them. But in July 1981, a big twist came into their story. This year, Yamaguchi's third-generation leader, Kazuo Taoka, dies. Now, who will become the next leader of the gang? A tussle begins over this. In this tussle, Masahisa Takanaka and Hiroshi Yamamoto, both strong Yakuza leaders, wanted to make themselves the Oiban of Yamaguchi. To resolve this confusion, the heads of 104 sub-gangs finally held a vote. In this voting, Masahisa Takanaka got 57 votes and he became the new Oiban of Yamaguchi. Frustrated by his own defeat, Hiroshi Yamamoto took 18 supporting gang leaders with him and formed a new Yakuza group called Ichiwake. In a short time, 6,000 members joined Ichiwake, which was equal to half the members of Yamaguchi-gumi at that time. Now, although Yamaguchi used various tactics to bring back 3,000 of the 6,000 people who had gone to Ichiwake, this defeat was unbearable for Yamamoto. And that is why on January 26, 1985, Yamaguchi's boss, Takanaka, is attacked and murdered. After this, Yamaguchi declared a war against Ichiwake. As soon as this happened, the police raided Yamaguchi's offices and seized all their weapons. But even this didn't stop them. With the help of the US, they procured rocket launchers and machine guns and continued this war against Ichiwake. This very war proved to be a major turning point for Japan's 300-year-old gang culture. At that time, there were more than 200 armed shootings in Japan. It had become very difficult to keep the general public out of this gang war. And now people were getting tired of these gangs and their internal feuds. After this, there were two such trigger points that caused the Japanese government, which itself used to support the Yakuza, to suddenly turn against them, and an overall negative sentiment began to develop. So in the 1980s, Japan was going through a major economic downfall. But even during this economic downfall, the Yakuza had not stopped taking protection money from ordinary businesses. Because of this, people were already getting fed up with the Yakuza. During this time, as shown in the chart, drug usage in Japan increased significantly. Instead of stopping, the Yakuza began importing a new synthetic drug from South Korea. Due to this, drug abuse among Japanese youth was increasing significantly, and the public sentiment towards the Yakuza was becoming negative. Seeing the increasing crimes of the Yakuza, the Japanese government was forced to pass the Anti-Boryokuden Act, i.e., the anti-gang law, in 1992. As soon as this law was passed, a heavy crackdown on gangs began in Japan. The open offices of the gangs in the middle of the cities were shut down. The properties and businesses in their names were also seized. Their leaders were put in jails. The way the public also started putting up anti-Yakuza posters outside their homes and offices, a wave of their complete social boycott spread. Due to all this, by the end of 1994, a total of 192 gangs in the country were completely wiped out. But the real game changers here were the Yakuza exclusion ordinances brought in 2011. These laws made being a Yakuza member a punishment in itself. If you are a Yakuza member, you cannot open a bank account, cannot get a credit card, cannot rent a house, you can't even get a mobile phone connection. Basically, you will be completely cut off from modern society. The restrictive anti-Yakuza legislation has made life as a member of the Yakuza dysfunctional with modern-day Japan. Now, because of this, the entire economic model of the Yakuza collapsed. Earlier, making money through violence used to be quite profitable. You could earn money by intimidating anyone. But in today's digital economy, all this doesn't work. The world has changed. The traditional businesses of the Yakuza shut down one by one. Japan's post-bubble economy reduced opportunities for real estate corruption. The arrival of digital payments weakened their cash-based rackets. Police crackdowns eliminated the sources of extortion and protection money. Traditional revenue streams like gambling and loan sharking also declined. Now that the money was gone, the power also started to fade. The Yakuza started losing its operational relevance. And many gangs broke up into small, weak, and less profitable fragments. But the biggest attack came from a place for which the Yakuza was not at all prepared. A generational shift. Now, any cult-based organization needs new young people to survive. But Japan's Gen Z, well, they were really smart. They just didn't want to join the Yakuza. As of today, the average age of a Yakuza member has become 50 years plus. Meaning more than 50% of members are in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, and only 5.4% are in their 20s. So why aren't Japan's Gen Z and young people joining the Yakuza? Well, the answer lies in their core values. See, Gen Z are digital natives. Their entire world is on their cell phones, where information and their digital identity always stay together. This means that they have been raised not just in Japanese culture, but on the internet as well. And that is why they are very different from the previous generation. They are more individualistic, and for them, autonomy and flexibility are the most important things. This is the complete opposite of Japan's traditional culture, which is collectivistic, meaning it values group harmony and social norms more. This generational tension is visible everywhere in Japanese society, but it is most prominent in the world of crime. Because the Yakuza is deeply rooted in traditional Japanese culture, it is a collectivistic organization where absolute loyalty is expected from every member. Members have to put the organization above themselves. There is a strict hierarchy here where every word of the superiors has to be obeyed, and individuality is suppressed, and for Gen Z, this environment is extremely suffocating. Now, if we talk about the present day, it's not at all that organized crime or gang culture has completely ended in Japan. On the contrary, an even bigger problem is arising in today's time. Today, these gangs are directly tapping school and college kids. They're tapping the youth, turning them into criminals. First, watch this ad. This is an ad for a part-time job in Japan called a Yami Beto job. In this, about 3.5 lakh yen are being offered to directly commit robbery. Actually, a very interesting trend is developing in Japan. Gangs are making young boys aged 15 to 20 commit theft. The police there are calling these gangs tokoryu, who are giving instructions to children online in the name of offering part-time jobs and making them commit theft and crimes. The Japanese police have so far caught 10,000 tokoryus, and in 2023, the Tokyo police had arrested 6 such people who, after getting trapped in such part-time jobs on social media, had stolen 300 million yen, which is $1.92 million, from a watch and gold shop. Currently, such robberies have become very common in Japan. This year, between just September 18th and October 1st, 7 such robberies have taken place in Japan's capital, Tokyo. All these robberies are also being carried out by boys recruited through so-called part-time jobs. But you know the most interesting part? The Yakuza didn't actually lose in a fight. They died in silence. Gen Z didn't defeat them in a fight where the Yakuza's strength lay. Rather, Gen Z made them irrelevant. Crime, like everything else, is now evolving in the digital world. And in this new world, there is no place for the Yakuza. Rather, Gen Z is also bringing a huge cultural shift in Japan. Today in Japan, mass resignations are happening across companies, and the reason behind this is the search for happiness.
Japanese, we have this expression called karoshi, which is literally death by overwork.
Now, what exactly is happiness? What is the science behind it? How has our brain evolved for happiness over millions of years of evolution? And why are so many people suddenly resigning in Japan? I have already made a very deep scientific video on this whole issue on my main Get Set Fly Science channel. You can watch it by clicking here. And thanks for watching this video. If you learned something new from this video, definitely hit a like. See you next time. Take care. Jai Hind.